everybody, Sean here from the Mote Marine Lab Education Department. I'm just checking in from the field again, out at the Thompson Park at the end of City Island. I'm going to be exploring the mangroves today and telling you a little bit about the basic ecology of mangroves and some ways to identify them. And also we're going to wrap up today's video by talking about threats to mangroves and ways you can help protect mangrove forests. So let's go dive in and see what we can find. Completed in 2002, the Thompson Park Preserve Habitat Restoration Project helped restore and protect this beautiful piece of the Sarasota Bay. Multiple partners in conservation from local, state, and federal agencies were able to construct shallow tidal lagoons, plant native vegetation along the shorelines, and remove invasive plant species like the Brazilian pepper and Australian pine trees. This restoration project has created both foraging and nursery habitat for local wildlife, and the wooden boardwalk provides a rare opportunity for patrons to view a mangrove forest from the inside. Today, the park is a haven for terrestrial and aquatic life and a treasured green space in the Sarasota community. So like I mentioned today, I wanted to talk a little bit about mangroves and the three types that we see here in Florida. There are more than 50 species of mangroves around the world, but we see three primary species in Florida: the red mangroves, the black mangroves, and the white mangroves. So I wanted to teach you how to identify them if you see them out in the environment, and also to talk a little bit about the basic ecology of what a mangrove really is and why it's important in this ecosystem. So let's take a closer look. Mangroves are salt-tolerant trees, also known as halophytes, that live in coastal saltwater or brackish water environments. These unique trees have a number of adaptations which have helped them adapt to life in soil that is muddy and low in oxygen. From complex salt filtration systems to intricate networks of aerial roots, these hardy trees are able to withstand saltwater immersion and strong wave action on a daily basis. So the easiest way to identify mangroves, at least here in South Florida, is to look at the leaf structures and to look at the root structures of the trees. Two of the three species of mangroves that we have in Florida have what are known as aerial roots, or roots that literally stick up out of the ground. So let's take a look here at this red mangrove to my right. These are known as prop and drop roots because they quite literally prop the tree up and drop down from the branches. If you look up here to my right, to your left, you can actually see some new roots that are dropping down from the branches up above. So again, these are called the prop and drop roots. I also mentioned that you can identify mangroves based on the leaf structure. So this is a leaf from a red mangrove, and I know that because it has a pointed head. In this area, mangrove leaves that have pointed head all come from the red mangrove, and so we have the funny little rhyme, red, red, pointed head. So if you look at the leaf a little bit closer, you can actually see that it has a waxy cuticle as well. So if you're ever out in the environment and you see a mangrove forest like this, you can look at the roots. Again, they're called prop and drop roots, or you can look at the leaf structures and look for that pointed head and know that you're looking at a red mangrove leaf. So the tree that I'm currently standing in is a black mangrove, and there's two easy ways to identify it. Again, it's all about the leaf structures and the roots. So let's start with the roots. All around the base of this tree is a network of what are called pneumatophores or snorkel roots. These roots stick up out of the sediment, and they're woody structures that help the tree exchange gas when the high tide comes in. So looking at the leaves of the black mangrove, the first thing that stands out to me is noticing the salt crystals that are secreted onto the leaf. So living in this salty environment, these trees have to have a way to deal with the salt. For the black mangroves, that quite literally means secreting the salt through little pores on the back of the leaf. So if you find a black mangrove leaf, you can see the salt crystals, but you can also taste them if you actually give it a little lick. So if you find yourself in a mangrove forest and you're not sure which species of mangrove it is you're looking at, if you're feeling really scientific, you could give the leaves a little lick just to be sure. So the third species of mangrove that I want to talk about really quickly is the white mangrove. And unfortunately, this is the species that doesn't have aerial roots. So there's no real great way to identify them if you're looking at the ground. But if you look at the leaf structures here, what you'll notice is the presence of what are known as extrafloral nectaries. And there's two little white dots at the base of the leaf, kind of where the stem attaches. And so the importance of these is that they attract ants in the area, which come and eat sugar, but also deter leaf-eating insects from coming and eating all the leaves off of this tree. So sugar-eating ants and the white mangrove have what's known as a mutualistic symbiotic relationship. So symbiosis is where two organisms are interacting in the environment. Mutualism just means that they're both benefiting. So in this example, the white mangrove gets protection from the ants in the form of not having its leaves eaten by leaf-eating insects, and the ants get a free meal out of this deal. And again, that's called mutualism. So because of this symbiotic relationship that the white mangrove has with ants, we say the rhyme, white, white, sweet delight. So recall back to those other two rhymes as well. We have red mangroves, it's the red, red, pointy head. We have black mangroves, we say black, black, salty back. And then for the white mangroves, we say white, white, sweet delight. So see if you can remember all three of those. All right, I know that was a lot of information, but let's change gears quickly and take a look at a couple of other interesting things found in this area. So one of the questions I often get when we're out here exploring the mangrove forests is, what are these long green bean looking things that you find all over the place around mangroves? These are known as propagules, and these are actually baby mangroves that came off of the red mangrove tree. And so this is a fully germinated baby version of the tree. It's not even really a seed, it's just a germinated young tree that will fall off of the parent plant, and it can float around in this marine ecosystem for months at a time before ultimately it'll put down some roots and start to create these little sprouts. And so if you look at the floor of the forest around here, what you'll notice is lots of little sprouted baby red mangroves. And that's how these mangroves expand and fill out. They fill out from the inside, where these propagules fall down into the sediment and start to create new tree structures. So down here to my left is actually one of my favorite species to see in this area. This is known as sea purslane. And surprisingly, it's actually an edible plant. This is a plant that's grown in the Mote aquaculture facility as well. So if you take a little leaf of it here, you can find it on these little viney structures on the ground. But if you take a leaf, surprise, surprise, it's pretty salty in this salty environment. So this is actually one of my favorite views of the downtown Sarasota skyline for a couple of reasons. You can see the entire city from here. You can see the Ringling Bridge. You can see another oyster bed here with lots of different species that are out finding invertebrate life or hunting for fish in the shallows. I see a snowy egret right here closest to us at the edge of this oyster bed. I see some white ibises over there kind of farther off to our left. It looks like maybe way off in the distance a little blue heron just this side of those two kayakers over here. So this is really just a beautiful estuarian area. If you pan over here to my right, you can see a brown pelican that's coming in to land. You can see a great blue heron entering the water right there as well. So just a fantastic place here right in our backyard. So now that we've talked a little bit about the basic ecology of mangroves, I want to tell you a little bit about the things that threaten the health of mangrove ecosystems and ways that you can help protect mangroves. First and foremost, the loss of habitat. Coastal development is a huge threat to the preservation of these pristine mangrove forest areas. We need these areas for a couple of reasons. They provide habitat for wildlife, but also our fisheries really depend on these ecosystems. Mangrove and seagrass habitats kind of work together to create what's called a nursery. These nursery areas provide habitat for wildlife to reproduce and to thrive. And so it's really important that we keep these areas intact, not only for the fish, but also for the wildlife above the water as well, like birds, especially the roseate spoonbills, which require mature mangrove forests in order to nest. Another big challenge we face with the protection of our mangrove ecosystems is degraded water quality. And so being aware of the pollution that works its way into this ecosystem, that's a huge challenge that we're faced with right now, and trying to clean up our water quality. And the third challenge that we really face here, not only in South Florida, but really globally, is the invasion of invasive species. And so just off to my right over here, you can see an Australian pine tree. There's a couple of those. Those are non-native species that are able to outcompete smaller, shorter plants in these kind of intertidal zones. And so trying to reduce the number of invasive species is really a big focus in preserving and protecting these wild areas as well. So a couple of things I wanted to leave you with. There are ways that you can help protect mangrove forests. Just get out here and appreciate these forests. Coming out here and getting involved in nature is a great way to just kind of inject yourself into conservation efforts. Once you're out here, maybe take a few moments to pick up some trash along the way. That's a great way to help us protect these small local spaces. If you're a pet owner, make sure you pick up your pet waste. That can create a lot of waste in our local environment. A couple of more local things we can do. Be aware of the amount of fertilizer you use on your lawn. Using slow release fertilizers and being aware of fertilizer restrictions and using fertilizers only in the certain times of the year when they're regulated is a great way to lessen our impact on these mangrove forests. But thinking on a more global scale, get out and vote for legislation and vote for good policy that protects wild spaces and wildlife. That's a great way to use your voice to really protect and care for these places. So thanks again for joining us today. Hopefully you had fun and learned something along the way. If you did enjoy this video, let us know. Send us a comment or get out in nature and make a video of your own. Let us know what kind of wildlife you find just in your backyard. Stay tuned for the second video in a 2-video series that I'm going to be doing about mangroves. That'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, like I said, get out there, have fun, find something cool in your backyard. This is Sean Swartz signing off from the field.